Hey friend, in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to sketch flowers before you paint. This is something that I cover very in depth in my brand new course called The Art Within. It's something that I wanted to just touch on here in a video because a lot of people really struggle with getting the shape of their flowers down, whether they're painting loose or realistic with watercolor. And it's all about understanding the basic shapes of your subject, whether it's a flower, an animal, a portrait, whatever it is, before you just jump right into just painting, winging it, hoping it works out. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how I sketch before I paint and help you understand some basics about sketching and understanding or being a student of your subject before you just wing it and hope it works out. So if you're ready and you need help with this, then let's dive in. Okay, so before I actually show you how to sketch a specific flower, I'm going to show you a couple warm-up drills or motor skill developing drills that if you're new to sketching or you think you suck at sketching, everyone can sketch. It just is the art to anything, whether it's painting, ceramics, sketching, whatever, is the time and dedication to dedicate to repetitive action. So if you're struggling with shape or getting the foundations of just getting your arm and muscle memory down, all you need to do is practice these simple phone chords. So I know this looks silly or too basic or whatever, but this right here is essential to creating smooth C curves, smooth shapes, and then straight lines, practicing straight lines going up to, at a right angle and then going down at a right angle. And then the opposite. Repetitive action is what is going to help develop that artistic skill of sketching. So something that I used to do all the time in high school and college before I even knew that I was an artist or that I was going to become an artist as a profession was I would doodle all the time, all over my journals, all over my notebooks in school. And I would write my name in cursive. I would do these phone chords over and over again because this was actually something that my parents, if we did something bad, like we would have to do these squiggles and fill up like tons of sheets of paper like this. And I know it seems like it's not doing anything, but that muscle memory of getting you comfortable with doing these quick C curves, these quick circular motions to make them smooth, and then obviously straight lines is unlocking that repetitive action for your muscles to develop all the skills you need for sketching flowers. Another thing that I like to practice over and over again for taking this and making it into a very, very simple flower is starting with a C curve. So to sketch any flower, you have to know the basic call outs of curves and lines. So we've obviously got straight lines or slanted lines. You could get more complicated or add more depth with what's called cross-hatching or hatching, but that's a little bit more advanced in the sketching world, and this is mostly just to sketch before you paint. But C curves is another one that you'll need to know. So C curves, I like to do a lot of my stems, a lot of my leaves, a lot of my petal bases are just C curves. Sometimes there'll be an S curve, which I'll do over here, S curve, which has 2 arches. C curve is just 1. So then at the top of that C curve is where I'm going to add these little phone chords that I just did, but I'm gonna create it in a loop. So I've got 1 phone chord, and looping out and around about 4 or 5 times in varying sizes. So right there, I have a cutie little flower, and all I have to do is, let's pretend this is the most forward facing petal. So this one goes behind that. So I'm gonna erase these guidelines here, and this one goes behind that, and that one's the furthest away. So I'm gonna go here. Oh my goodness. I have to press really dark so that you can see this on camera. I'm pressing much darker than normal. And here. So I'm just creating these little cloud-like shapes to the tops of these petals. And then I can erase those guides, which they won't erase all the way because I was sketching so dark. And then for a leaf, and then we can grab our stem and make it a little bit wider. And for a leaf, we'll start with a C curve and then an S curve on both sides. And to practice that, another great thing to practice for sketching flowers, any type of flower, is to just do leaves over and over again with an S curve at the top, so S, and then a C curve on the bottom. So you start with a C curve. You can start from the top or bottom up. Totally depends on what's more comfortable for you. And I like to pull down instead of going up. So you might like to push up. I like to pull down, see what works best for you. And then I'll start at the tip of that C curve and curve in and then out again for an S curve. Same thing on the other side and try to stop at the same point and then go up just a little bit with my S curve and around the same area, or sorry, my C curve. And there's a basic leaf. But this little dip right here is very common in both leaves and petals. So like we're just basically creating that dip in these petals that we did over here in our leaf. So then to take it another step further, we're combining this with a little bit more complicated shapes. So all of your petals should be pointing back to the same spot. So this exercise where you got your C curve and then your loops is a really good exercise in training your muscles in your eye to point all of your petals back to that same spot. This is where they're growing from. If they're not coming out of the top of that stem, then it makes no sense. If a petal is pointing down this way, that would make no sense. It would not grow in that direction. You picture a ball kind of unfolding like this or peeling an orange. All of your petals or orange peels are connected at the bottom if you don't obviously pluck them off. So then to take it up a notch and to sketch some flowers in a few different perspectives, we're gonna start with a circle. And we're just gonna do these steady kind of just moving my wrist and arm across the paper first. And you go to make a good smooth circle, you're gonna need to go over it a few times. If you just try to get it good in one little foul swoop for a circle, it's gonna be really wobbly. So you wanna sketch kind of light and go over and over and over it until you get the shape that you want. And then from there, I'm going to sketch in another circle. Again, it's kind of more like an oval until I get the shape that I want. And then I'm gonna draw like little spokes of a tire. Because all of my petals are gonna be pointing back to that middle area, which will be the bulb of the flower and then the stem. So this is the middle of my petal now. And I'm going to S curve, S curve. So very basic way to just create some simple petals. S curve, and maybe this petal is really close to that one. And then maybe we want to add some petals kind of behind these other ones. Like that. And then we'll take this bulb here and make it a little bit more fluffy looking. I'm just doing these little squiggles, kind of small, tiny circles around here. And then I'm gonna take where this spoke or this line is, I'm gonna add a little tiny hump or C curve on the top of the petal. And then sketch in detail. So like it's a little bump. And that detail I'm adding is just a C curve. So we've got our petal here. And a straight line like this would not make sense as shading or detail on the petal. So you want to make sure that your detail on the petal is following that C curve that it's next to. And I wouldn't add this much detail before a painting because this is obviously detail that you would add with like actually pigment. But this is a really good practice in training your eye for sketching and then also for painting too, because then you'll know where to add the detail when you're painting because you know where to add it when you're sketching. So sketching is the absolute foundations for anything that you do artistically. It's something that I teach a ton in my course, The Art Within, which helps you to bring out flow state in your paintings, which will help you create your most original work, help you develop your style. But we go over a ton of sketching basics and foundations for unlocking flow state and unlocking your eye for sketching and for painting. We do a lot of painting exercises too. All you got to do to get really comfortable with painting is to understand the basics or the structure of basically fully immersing yourself in the outside world so that you can see and study each individual subject and notice how many petals does that flower have? Is it a circle shape or is it more of a cone shape? So we've got an oval, and then down the middle of that oval we've got a smaller oval. So it's kind of a cone shape. And then we have the spokes of our tire. Obviously these petals being on their side. Maybe some petal here, another petal here, and this petal. So we've got starting really basic, and then you can add more and more detail. If you're following the basic shape of a flower, like the cone or the circle, whatever it is, then it starts to just fall in place once you understand the basic shape of that flower. So even now I'm going super quick, and a lot of my marks are really, when you zoom in and get really close, they're really kind of sketchy, weird looking. But the more you focus on overall shape and following that, it really doesn't matter. You can have squiggle lines as long as they're pointing in the right direction, and then you continue to add that detail to bring the shape of the flower out. So I've kind of got this C curve shape and then a half C, half C. And so this just started with 2 ovals, and this was a circle and a circle. So we're following basic shapes and training our eyes to see basic shapes whether we're sketching or not. Because if you're painting a loose style floral with watercolor and your shape is off, it's never gonna look right. And then we can add like so. So obviously this is a helpful exercise in understanding how to create a flower, whether you're sketching it or painting it. If I were sketching before adding my paint, I wouldn't add all this detail and I wouldn't sketch this darkly because is darkly a word? I wouldn't sketch this dark because it would show through my watercolor. So I would stop after doing the circle or the ovals. I would stop after the outline or contour of the petal. So I would stop at basically if I had a small baby flower here. I would sketch much lighter than this, but I need to sketch so you can see. I would get my shape down, and then I would add the contour of my petals or the outline of my petals.
Darkly is a word.
It is a word? And then I would go in and erase the circles or ovals and any marks that I don't need. And then I would add my paint so that I have my shape down and the contour of my petals or the edge of my petals. And then I know where to put my paint. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful for you. Obviously, sketching isn't something that every watercolorist needs to have in their toolbox. I believe that it is something that you absolutely need as a foundational element to your art practice, no matter what type of art or medium you are painting in or sketching in, whatever it is. I think drawing is absolutely transformative because it allows you to become more present and more of a student in what it is that you're studying before you paint it, before you whatever else you're doing with it. So I highly recommend checking out my online course, The Art Within, if you want to take this even further. It goes way, 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 way more further on developing the motor skills, being a student, and sketching and all the sketching foundations that you need, composition, color theory, developing your style, and then the neuroscience and science behind flow state, unlocking flow state for yourself, whether you're painting or drawing, playing music, or whatever. And I have a lot of guest experts joining me, doctors and breathwork experts, meditation experts joining me on the course as well, doing interviews and guided meditations and other things. And it's just going to be a very awesome course to help you unlock your individual style and your joy with art again, and kind of unblock or find blocks that you have in your creativity to help show what they are and how to unblock them, unstuck yourself. If you want to take your watercolor journey even further though, and for free, we have a video on this channel called The Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor. It's about a 2-hour watercolor course that's going to show you everything that you need technique-wise, style-wise, all of that color theory and stuff packed into that video. And then if you want to go a little bit further with your art, then make sure to check out my Patreon, jennarainey.com/Patreon. That's where I'm uploading twice a month tutorials, exclusive tutorials for my patrons only every single month. And then we're also doing live Q&As and live art classes every single month with me. So you can ask your questions, get your feedback, and get more in-depth tutorials with me there. And it also comes with a community where you can meet like-minded people, like-minded artists, ask questions, get feedback from me and all the other students in the Patreon community. So make sure you check that out. As always, thank you so much for watching, for engaging in our videos, liking, subscribing. All of that makes a huge difference. We appreciate it so much. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.